Hey everyone, so there is a lot of discussion about who the next Straw Hat or Straw Hats will be. And it's difficult because we don't really have any clear idea of how many more crewmates we're even going to get, or if we will get another crewmate at all. When people are debating Yamato, Carrot, Momonosuke, Tama, some unknown giant from Elbaf, all these options, we don't know if it makes sense for one character to join, or two, or three, or four, or maybe none, because maybe the crew is already complete. However, I think several signs point to the final number for the crew to be 13, so Luffy and 12 others. And while I have talked about this in the past, today I have a lot more that seems to point to this magic number of 13. And once we have this number in mind, the arguments for final crewmates may start to fall into place easier. So before we get into it, make sure to subscribe for more One Piece videos every week. And I also need to take a moment to share some snacks with you. Not just any snacks, I'm talking about delicious Japanese snacks from Bokksu, the sponsor of this video. Look, we all know that you can't watch anime without having some food to go with it. But really, you can't get the true anime experience unless you have some Japanese snacks to go with it. And if you want to get a real taste of Japan, you need to try Bokksu. I mean, this is the perfect variety snack box to give you a full range of different cookies, cakes, chips, and candies with a wide variety of flavors. What do you like? Green tea cakes, gummies, chocolate, salty chips, spicy chips, rice cakes? It has everything you could ask for. It seriously gives you a ridiculous amount of Japanese snacks to feast on, and it's especially great for sharing with other people as a sort of party platter. Even if you have zero interest in Japanese culture, the snacks just taste great, and not only do you get a ton of them, you can get your Bokksu today with 10% off using my code MrMorgeman10. Just use my code MrMorgeman10 and hit the link in the description below to get 10% off your own authentic Japanese subscription from Bokksu. Don't miss out on this amazing snack journey through Japan. So that aside, what I discussed in the past was this idea of 444. It's an idea that One Piece fans have theorized about for years, that Luffy will pick up 4 crewmates from each segment of his journey. The first 4, Zoro, Nami, Usopp, and Sanji, came from East Blue. Then the next 4, Chopper, Robin, Frankie, and Brook, came from the Grand Line. And finally, the last 4, in theory, would come from the New World, meaning Jinbei and 3 others. I talk more at length about this theory in this video that you can click on to the top right, but it does make some sense considering we know that Oda likes his patterns, and East Blue and the Grand Line did have Luffy pick up the same number of crew members. So that's a start, a fun thing to think about, that Luffy might have 12 total crewmates in the end, 4 from each section of his journey, totaling 13 with himself. So with that in mind, the idea that we may end the story with Luffy and his 12 crewmates, a captain, and his 12 followers. Now think about this next part. Who is Luffy shaping up to be in the narrative of One Piece? What is the role that it seems like he will play in this world? Well, for a long time, Luffy's story was simply one of a boy on his own personal adventure, traveling from island to island across the world. And he just so happens to save the people of each island that he travels to from some sort of evil. And so he continues throughout the world, righting wrongs and defeating villains wherever he goes. And as the true nature of the One Piece world and conflict has developed, we begin to realize that this is not just something Luffy happens to be doing, but rather this is likely the essence of who he is. This is the role that he is meant to play for the entire world. The man who will bring the dawn of the world. A man that many figures have been waiting on for many years. Essentially, the world is waiting on some sort of a great savior to end the long night that has lasted for 800 years. And even more than that, the further that we've gone on, the more we've had this idea of this savior figure fleshed out, with the idea of a joy boy that the world is waiting on. And now even beyond that, the idea of the sun god, this mystical figure who is very likely related to the idea of Joy Boy and the dawn of the world. Not to mention the fact that Luffy historically, even from very early in the series, has very explicitly been depicted as this sort of transcendent figure at times. Very, very literally the answer to people's prayers, the answer to those who are crying out in help for a god to save them, the one who can ultimately bring the light of the sun to those in need, a true messiah for those who have been oppressed by false gods such as Enel, or in the grander scheme of things, the Celestial Dragons for so long. Yes, at its core, One Piece is the journey of just this boy going on a fun pirate's adventure. But as it has developed, the true meaning behind this adventure and what this boy's ultimate role is in this world, what exactly he is going to bring about, has certainly been slowly shaping up to be somewhat of a messiah figure at the end of the day. The great savior the world has been waiting for, the one who will bring the dawn. So looking at Luffy's journey through that lens, as that very much is the true vision of the story that things have been shaping into, I want you to think about when exactly most of these changes in perspective came about. I'd say that, without a doubt, Wano has been by far the most important arc to truly putting into perspective who Luffy really is. To be clear, none of this is out of the blue. We had plenty of pieces of it already. The idea of the dawn of the world has been baked into the story for a long time. The man that Roger was waiting for, the Will of D, the association with Luffy and the sun, even the name Joy Boy was mentioned back in Fishman Island. Most of that isn't new. However, Wano is the arc where suddenly it seems as though information that seems specifically relevant to Luffy seems to be finally coming together fast. The idea that Joy Boy is someone in the modern day that is being waited upon, that Luffy is in fact a candidate for this role, that Luffy's potential role as the Sun God has undoubtedly been foreshadowed in many ways, the idea that even his fruit may be something more than we know, and the now definitive belief from so many people that he is without a doubt the man who is destined to bring the dawn. And it makes sense after all. Wano is an arc about identity, as we have seen in so many ways. So point being, this arc, above all other arcs, has been the one where Luffy's potential identity, his role in the world, is finally being given shape. And that is why it is so interesting that simultaneously, in this, the Wano arc, we have by far the most references and parallels to the religion of Christianity. Now, not saying One Piece is a big Christian thing or whatever. Obviously, One Piece draws from many religions. Hinduism, Buddhism, Christianity is usually just one of many different sources Oda pulls from. However, I'm saying the Wano arc, this arc in particular, is much heavier in specifically Christianity parallels than you would normally see. Obviously, we've had some very explicit imagery throughout this arc, but more importantly, the basis of this Wano arc itself, the story of Odin, is essentially a very Christ-like story. Odin is a man who essentially suffered and ultimately died for Wano's sins. His final moments with him bearing a burden, a cross of sorts upon his back, and his sacrificial death inspiring countless followers in his wake. Even the specifics of Odin's story, his downfall being due to being sold out by one of his followers. Kanjuro is Odin's Judas in many ways. I mean, it's pretty clear what Oda is going for. Oda literally has Yamato treating the story of Odin as literally her Bible. Like, Oda cannot really get more explicit or on the nose with this. So where am I going with that? Well, the arc that seems to be the most heavily geared towards defining who Luffy is in the context of the world, who he will be, what role he will play, and all of it pointing towards Luffy being a sort of messianic savior for the world, the man who will bring the dawn, the answer to the Will of D, carrying centuries of history on his back, the man that Roger and Odin and Whitebeard were waiting for, whatever he may be called, Joy Boy, the Sun God Nika, it doesn't matter. The point is that this is the arc where his role in the world is becoming clear, and really it is the same role that he has played for every single island he has been to, just now we are reaching that point where he must become that same messianic figure for the world at large. And in this same arc where all of this is becoming clear, we are getting the heavy references to Christianity. I strongly believe that there is a strong parallel here, and that the same way that Christ, the Messiah, ultimately had 12 disciples, so too will Luffy ultimately have 12 followers. 4, 4, 4. 4 from East Blue, 4 from the Grand Line, and 4 from the New World. So 13 Straw Hats in total, as ultimately it seems that what we are following, and what we have been following all along, was the story of the savior of the world, the Messiah, and his 12 followers. Now you might ask, well then why didn't Odin have 12 followers? Well, first of all, technically he did, Oda just masked it. There were the 9 scabbards, but also Izzo, so really the 10 scabbards, but then also Shinobu, who was officially made an honorary scabbard, so 11, and Toki makes 12. But the important point is that Oda is doing multiple things with Oden's story, as Oda is trying to write Oden's story to parallel Christ's in a way, but Oda also has to make clear to the reader that the general concept of Oden and his scabbards parallel Luffy and the Straw Hats in a way. So since Luffy only has 9 followers at the time of the start of Wano, Oden has to also be given 9 followers, 9 scabbards, so that the parallel is obviously easily understandable to the reader. Point being that overall, it still suggests that Luffy as a messiah-like figure for the world would ultimately make sense as having 12 followers, maybe as soon as by the end of Wano, but certainly by the time of the final war. And now if you think that that's all too much of a stretch and the Messiah Christ stuff is interesting, but not really evidence that Luffy will have 12 followers like Christ, and the 444 thing isn't enough of a pattern to cement that, well, here's a totally separate source of inspiration that Oda also seems to be drawing from, that also seems to suggest that Luffy will have 12 followers total, meaning 13 Straw Hats total. That is the Zodiac animals. The Zodiac animals we already know have influence in the series with the naming of multiple Marines, not just the Admirals, but some of the newer Vice Admirals. So we already know that Oda does draw inspiration from that. But what about for the Straw Hats? So the Chinese Zodiac has 12 animals, but really 13 animals, as the cat is usually referred to as the 13th Zodiac animal. If you know the story, basically all 13 animals decided to race, and the order of who finished first to last is what now determines the order of the Chinese calendar, Year of the Dragon, Year of the Dog, and so on. As the story goes, the cat just died in the race due to drowning, so it didn't get a year for itself, hence we have 12 Zodiac years instead of 13, but the cat is still part of the origin story. There are 13 Zodiac animals. And this is the part where things seem to really click in place, as Oda has, on multiple occasions, assigned animal attributes to the Straw Hats, both in SBSs and in color spreads, and a lot of his animal attributions seem to line up to these Zodiac signs. You can actually fill it out pretty easily for the most part. Luffy is a monkey, Zoro is a tiger, Nami is a cat, Sanji is a goat, Brook is a horse, Frankie is a bull, so he fits the ox, Robin is always depicted as some sort of a bird, so she fits as the rooster, Usopp is a chameleon and really does fit the snake considering how much he lies. And then out of the last 2 Straw Hats, Chopper and Jinbei, they aren't perfect fits, but it is very, very likely Chopper would be represented by a mouse considering he is the timid little baby of the group. I don't think it's a big leap from Tanuki to mouse. I mean, just look at Bunbuku. And with Jinbei, he most fittingly would be a whale shark as an animal, but that's not really an option in the Zodiac animals. I don't think it's much of a stretch to say that a pig or a boar fits him. I mean, just look at him. So the reason I think this little Zodiac situation fits so well is because once you slot in all of the current Straw Hats to their most obvious slots, then you're looking at the remaining 3 missing slots of dragon, rabbit, and dog, and it's like, those are very conveniently the 3 most talked about Straw Hat candidates that we have at the moment. I mean, we are literally looking at a dragon, a rabbit, and a dog as the 3 most talked about Straw Hat candidates right now. I don't know, guys. I think no matter what, we are ending up with a group of 13 Straw Hats. It fits 3 separate patterns. The idea of the 4-4-4, 4 Straw Hats from East Blue, 4 from Grand Line, 4 from the New World. It fits the idea of Luffy as the Messiah and his 12 followers, fitting with the clear Christianity parallels and Messiah ideas that are coming out of Wano. And it fits the 13 Zodiac animals pretty cleanly, with extra bonus that the 3 missing Zodiac animals just so happen to be the 3 crewmate candidates that everyone has at the top of their list at the moment. Note, does this mean that I'm saying that Momonosuke, Carrot, and Yamato are going to be the final Straw Hats? No, they happen to fit very nicely those animal representations, but there are other characters that can certainly fit those slots. For example, Smoker is explicitly characterized as a dog, but that's neither here nor there. That's for you all to think about. But regardless of who specifically joins, 13 total Straw Hats makes sense to me in several ways. Let me know if you agree or disagree below, and if you enjoyed this video, then definitely like, comment, and subscribe for more One Piece videos every week. And make sure to use my code MrMorgeman10 and hit the link in the description below to get your 10% off Boxu.